Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. According to General Hospital, GH spoilers, acting District Attorney Justine Turner, Nazneen contractor, is playing a deadly game with Sonny Corinthos, Maurice Benard, and things are going to get much more complicated between February 23rd and February 27th. The promo video for this week's episode of General Hospital depicts the lawyer and the mob boss on the verge of kissing, implying that as Justine draws closer to Sonny, things will only get uglier. In the trailer, Jordan Ashford, Tanisha Harper, may be heard in a voiceover during Justine and Sonny's clip, saying, "Sonny may care about you, as long as you don't get in his way." Truer words were never spoken. Justine is still growing closer to Sonny, but is she developing real feelings for him? Sparks fly everywhere when these two interact. Sonny is undeniably attracted to the ADA. Yet, it's difficult for GH fans to determine whether she's also into him or simply bonding with him to gather information to bring him down. Justine appears intent on sending Sonny to prison, but she has also seen a softer side to the criminal, so she has dismissed the dangers of spending time with him. What Justine doesn't realize is that, while Sonny is a community pillar, philanthropist, and mob leader with a good heart, he also has a terrible side when it comes to anyone who crosses him. After all, he shot Dante Falconeri, Dominic Zamprogna, years ago when he discovered he was a mole attempting to infiltrate his organization in order to obtain evidence against him and put him to prison. In more recent years, Sonny shot FBI agent John Jaggercates, Adam J. Harrington point-blank in the head, killing him and avoiding jail time for crossing a line with his family. Furthermore, when Sonny found Dex Heller, Evan Hofer, was a traitor, he ripped into him and beat him to a pulp. If Sonny discovers he is being used, it is unclear how he will react to Justine. Sure, he can make killer pizza and pasta sauce, but he isn't all smiles and dimples when it comes to his foes. Sonny is a hero in Port Charles and fiercely protective of his family, but when confronted, even in his old age, he is a force to be reckoned with. Is Justine aware of the terrible scenario she has put herself in by circling Sonny's orbit? Having said that, she could be genuinely falling in love. This appears to be a circumstance in which Justine intends to bring down Sonny but refrains from pulling the trigger because she has fallen for him.
According to General Hospital spoilers, both Sonny and Justine are playing with fire, as he is aware that she is related to the law but still spends time with her. In Port Charles's mysterious underbelly, where the line between justice and retribution blurs like fog drifting off the harbor, acting District Attorney Justine Turner becomes embroiled in a hazardous dance with Sonny Corinthos. The mob boss, with his distinctive leather jacket and unwavering gaze, had always handled the world on his own terms, protecting his family, controlling his business, and outmaneuvering anybody who dared to defy him. Justine, bright, ambitious, and equipped with the full force of the law, entered his orbit as an antagonist, aiming to bring down the city's long-standing crime network. However, what began as a simple quest of justice has evolved into something far more complex, a game of proximity and deception that threatens to engulf them both. Justine originally arrived in Port Charles with a reputation for being uncompromising. As acting DA, she took over amid disarray in the district attorney's office, promising to clean house and hold powerful people accountable. Sonny, of course, topped her list. His name resonated through courtrooms and police precincts like a warning, untouchable, yet always one slip away from indictment. Their initial encounters were fraught with antagonism. She served subpoenas, questioned witnesses connected to his group, and publicly announced her desire to put him behind bars. Sonny answered with his customary blend of charm and threat, dismissing her efforts while quietly reminding her that the game she was playing involved real risks. Over time, however, flaws formed in the armor. Justine witnessed events that humanized the man she saw as a criminal mastermind. Perhaps it was the way he spoke about his children, the strong protectiveness that shone through his harsh demeanor, or how he quietly supported those who were loyal to him without asking return. She unwillingly attended a family event, where the warmth of the Corinthos clan stood out vividly against the frigid sterility of her own desires. Sunny's softer side revealed through tiny gestures such as a shared lunch, an open chat about loss, and the way he listened when she vented about her professional concerns. These glances weakened her resolve, sowing seeds of doubt. Is he actually irredeemable, or has the system failed to recognize the intricacies behind his reputation? Sunny, ever the tactician, noticed the shift. He had previously romanced powerful women, cops, attorneys, and journalists, walking a fine line between genuine affection and planned benefit. Justine's connection felt mutual, almost electric. Their discussions were fraught with unsaid tension, gaze lingering longer than necessary, and voices lowering to intimate levels. He began approaching her under the pretext of cooperation, sharing information about shared foes while pushing conversations toward personal terrain. Justine told herself it was all part of the plan. Get close, acquire trust, and find the evidence necessary to bury him. But late at night, when examining case files in her dimly lit office, she found herself revisiting their conversations, wondering if the flutter in her chest was strategy or something frighteningly genuine. The escalation was well portrayed in the promotional clips that circulated among supporters. In one scene, the two are only inches apart, the air dense with expectancy. Sunny goes for her coat collar, softly bringing her closer. Their faces are close together, their breaths mixing before lips touch in a kiss that feels both natural and forbidden. For Justine, there is the point of no return. Crossing into physical contact with the subject of her research is not only unethical, but also suicidal in the environment she inhabits. Colleagues such as Jordan Ashford have already issued warnings, implying that Sunny's care is subject to certain conditions, stay out of his way, or face the consequences. Justine blows them off, maintaining that her focus is on justice, but the uncertainty persists. Is she taking advantage of him, or has he already reversed the situation? The threat goes beyond controversy and professional loss.
Sunny's life is characterized by violence. Rivals lurk in every shadow, rival organizations, abandoned allies, and even law enforcement officials eager to bend the rules for personal benefit. Justine's developing intimacy puts her right in the crosshairs. If news gets out that the acting DA is intimately linked with the man she's supposed to prosecute, her credibility suffers. Enemies could take advantage of the vulnerability, targeting her to strike Sunny. Worst-case scenario, Sunny may regard her as a threat if he realizes her initial aim was never entirely abandoned. His experience demonstrates that he does not hesitate when betrayal approaches. Lovers have suffered his wrath before, though rarely without sorrow. Consider the larger network of Port Charles entanglements. Michael's legal problems loom like a thundercloud, with allegations flying and family loyalty strained. Sunny has relied on Justine for subtle interventions, leveraging their relationship to protect his son. She complies, telling herself it's only temporary, a means to an end. However, each favor compounds the knot, making evacuation more difficult. Meanwhile, other parties keep an eye on things. Rick Lansing is suspicious, maybe seeing echoes of previous manipulations. Jason Morgan is on guard, ready to protect Sunny at any cost. Even Sidwell circles, their schemes intersecting with the pandemonium. As the week of February 23rd to 27th unfolds on television, the tension rises to a breaking point. Justine's internal turmoil worsens. She confesses her concerns to Sunny, seeking solace in the person she should avoid. He follows her to her car, maintaining that sympathy is not what motivates him. The kiss that follows is not soft, it is hungry, stemming from pent-up need and whispered warnings. In their embrace, both recognize the danger. For Sunny, it's another layer in his convoluted life, a thrill amidst continual danger. For Justine, it's a risk that might jeopardize her profession, ethics, and even her life. The worry looming over Port Charles is whether this perilous game will become deadly. History suggests that it might. Sunny's romances frequently end in tragedy, betrayals, shootings, and shattered lives. Justine, with her badge and determination, is unlike the others. She is not easily intimidated, but neither is she indomitable. If her bosses find out about the affair, she faces dismissal. If Sunny's adversaries discover about it, they may use her as leverage or destroy her as a loose end. And if Justine's lingering mission to bring him down reappears at the wrong time, Sunny's forgiveness may not go as far. Despite the risks, there is evident connection. Their conversations are intense, with flirtatious arguments and meaningful silences. Fans debate endlessly if Justine is actually falling or if she is the greatest player. Does Sunny regard her as a conquest or a genuine partner? The ambiguity fuels the drama, keeping spectators interested. In a place where secrets are rarely kept hidden, this one feels especially explosive. Consider the sights to come: clandestine encounters in dimly lit pubs, whispered vows on rain-soaked streets, and moments of vulnerability that humanize both. Justine may share her initial motivations in the hopes of gaining understanding. Sunny may reveal scars from previous relationships, warning her away while drawing her closer. Each move ahead raises the stakes. A rival could strike, compelling them to form an alliance against a common opponent. Jealousy from Sunny's ex-partners, Carly and Nina, could spark new tensions. The human element is central to the plot. Sunny, with all his power, desires connection outside of his kingdom. Justine, motivated by fairness, longs for something genuine amidst the cynicism of her profession. Their clash has the potential to be both redeeming and destructive. If they survive the fallout, perhaps they will establish something permanent, a union that defies expectations. More than likely, the game will end in heartbreak, with one or both paying the ultimate price. In Port Charles, danger never remains abstract. Bullets fly, relationships crumble, and love is frequently the most lethal weapon. Justine's pursuit of Sunny began as a duty, now it borders on obsession. As they lean into the kiss, the world around them fades, yet the threats remain. The question is not if the game will turn lethal, but who will survive when it does. The answer lies in the decisions they make next, in the shadows where law and criminality intersect and passion may be as murderous as any gun. The air in Port Charles was heavier than normal, dense with secrets that fought to remain hidden. Along the shoreline, where the river lapped peacefully against sunny Corinthos piers, danger may hide in plain sight. It thrived on whispered agreements, coded glances, and relationships based on thin pledges. And recently, that threat had grown closer than ever, because Justine had decided to play a game she didn't entirely comprehend. Justine wasn't naive. She understood who Sunny was, what he controlled, and how easily he could ruin anyone who crossed him. Port Charles had learnt that lesson several times before. But she also understood that authority drew vulnerability as well as loyalty. Sunny had adversaries around every bend. He trusted only a few individuals totally. Justine sensed opportunity in the fractures in his armor. At first, it appeared straightforward enough. Increase his confidence. Feed him just the information he desired, carefully chosen, little twisted, but credible. Justine's source was near enough to the inner circle to be trusted. The risk was huge, as was the possible profit. She had obligations to pay off, leverage to grow, and someone she loved to protect. If manipulating Sunny Corinthos was the only way to do this, then so be it. Their first real business chat took place in his office, which was located above the coffee warehouse. The lights were low, and the mood was reserved. Sunny had examined her intently, his eyes piercing with skepticism but interested by the information she provided. Justine remained calm, answering his questions without flinching. She knew that with Sunny, weakness was an invitation to dominance. He'd accepted her proposal, not completely or naively, but enough to draw her farther into his circle. From that point forward, the distinction between strategy and survival began to blur. What Justine didn't realize was how acute Sunny could be when things didn't seem right. Years of betrayal honed his instincts. He'd felt betrayal from close allies before. He'd had to deal with lies from those claiming loyalty. Those memories lasted like scars, directing his actions even when reasoning demanded patience. So when a shipment was stopped based on knowledge that only a few people, including Justine, possessed, Sunny did not detonate. He did not accuse. He was watching. And he waited. Justine learned of the interception through a hurried call from her source. The strategy had evolved abruptly, and law enforcement had come too early. Someone had tipped them off. Sunny's reality was developing a story in which a rat had burrowed inside his business. Justine felt fear in her gut for the first time since she started this plot. She hadn't informed the police, at least not directly. However, the falsehood she had spread may have prompted someone else to act. Manipulation was never precise. It created ripples. She scheduled a quick appointment with Sunny, determined to avoid suspicion. She walked into his office and found him calm, too calm. His enforcer loomed nearby, silent yet imposing. The room felt smaller, and the oxygen was thinner.
"You look nervous," Sunny said gently. "Should I be?" She countered, maintaining a steady tone. "That depends," he answered, "on whether you've given me a reason." It was a chess match played at eye level. Justine provided a credible narrative for the breach, carefully shifting suspicion to a rival faction vying for Sunny's turf. She filled the story with enough reality to make it believable. Sunny listened without interrupting. He thanked her. That was worse than being angry. Because Sunny Corinthos did not thank individuals unless he intended to employ them again, or was about to test them. Meanwhile, tensions in Port Charles increased. News of the failed shipment traveled immediately. Rival players detected weakness. Sunny's buddies closed ranks. Paranoia permeated into meetings, disrupting procedures that had worked well for years. Justine felt the noose tighten with each unexpected development. Then came an unanticipated complication. Sunny began to confide in her. It began subtly, offhand remarks about his family, the relentless pressures of leadership, and the cost of mistrust. Justine had not expecting that. She was prepared for intimidation and scrutiny, but not for moments of weakness. Hearing him talk about safeguarding his children, about the sacrifices he made in their behalf, disturbed her more than threats would, because it helped him become more human. And humanizing Sunny made the game much more deadly. The longer she stayed in his presence, the more difficult it got to distinguish between manipulation and empathy. Was she still steering events, or was she being dragged into something she couldn't control? Sunny's world required devotion above anything else. Betrayal was not forgiven. It was removed. One evening, Justine met her original contact, the architect who had encouraged her to gain Sunny's trust. The contact cautioned her that the situation had become unstable. There were whispers that Sunny had ordered a quiet internal investigation. Telephones were being monitored. Financial documents were inspected. Patterns were evaluated. "He's circling you," the contact explained coldly. Justine felt frost sliding down her spine. "You said I'd be protected." "You are. For now." It wasn't reassuring right now. Back at the warehouse, Sunny read reports with measured patience, which scared his colleagues. He did not name any suspects. He did not lash out. Instead, he made subtle adjustments to operations, such as rerouting shipments and rearranging communication lines. It was the conduct of someone narrowing their concentration. And more often than not, that emphasis fell on Justine. He began asking her for tiny favors, tasks designed to put her allegiance to the test in a controlled setting. Deliver your message. Confirm one tiny detail. Relay a decoy plan and see where it lands. Each task was a scam disguised as trust. Justine saw the strategy almost too late. When one of Sunny's decoy information reappeared in her contact, she understood he was baiting her. If she spread the untruth, it would validate everything. If she withheld it, her contact would get suspicious. For the first time, she was trapped between two terrible forces, each capable of wreaking havoc. She chose to say nothing. Days later, Sunny called her again. His posture was one of quiet intensity rather than fury. He poured a drink for himself and offered one to her as well. She declined. "I gave you something incorrect," he replied casually. "I wanted to see who it came back to." Her heart hammered so loudly, she was afraid he could hear it. "It didn't come back," he said. "Interesting, isn't it?" Justine gulped. "Maybe your problem isn't who you think it is." Sunny moved closer, inspecting her face for cracks. "Maybe," he replied softly. The tension between them shifted at that point, not resolved, but redefined. He was not convinced of her innocence. But he wasn't positive about her guilt either. Meanwhile, The opposition faction became antsy. They demanded results. Information. Proof that Sunny's defenses were deteriorating. Justine's hesitancy jeopardized their larger goal. Pressure mounted. Subtle signals became overt. "You're forgetting who you're working for," her contact remarked sternly. The truth was that she no longer knew. Her initial objective, to gain leverage and protect someone she cared about, seemed distant in the face of the mounting risk. Every step she took may have disastrous effects. If Sunny discovered willful manipulation, the retaliation would be fast and decisive. If her contact thought she had switched loyalties, their reaction would be no less harsh. The game was no longer strategic. It was about survival. Then came the darkness, and everything tilted. Sunny's private meeting was ambushed, not by law enforcement, but by armed rivals. Only a few people were aware of the sight. Shots rang out. Chaos erupted. Sunny narrowly escaped death. One of his most trusted men sustained critical injuries. As anxiety rose in the corridors of the hospital, Sunny repeated every discussion and leak. His patience had evaporated. Only 3 persons knew about the meeting. Justine was one of them. She arrived at the hospital with the illusion of being concerned, but when she saw Sunny's demeanor, she knew. The calm calculation was gone. In its stead was restrained rage. "You told someone," he replied gently. "I didn't," she insisted, her voice wavering despite her efforts to control it. "So how did they know?" She had no response that didn't reveal her broader deceit. In Sunny's perspective, silence was just as incriminating as confession. Security escorted her out before the confrontation became public. The message was clear. She no longer belonged in his inner circle. But exclusion did not imply safety. Rumors immediately spread that Sunny was preparing to retaliate, not only against the opposition side, but also against the internal leak. Justine's contact went dark, and communication was abruptly cut. She recognized, with chilling clarity, that she had been a pawn in a far broader power game. If she fell, she would be alone. Desperation prompted her to take a final chance. She demanded one final meeting with Sunny, giving facts big enough to demonstrate her usefulness. He consented despite being advised not to. In the dim light of his office, she lay him everything: the competitor's long-term strategy, financial supporters, and planned growth. She refrained from admitting her initial manipulation, but she did admit she had been pressured. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she replied, the truth ringing in her voice. Sunny listened carefully, considering each word. In his world, trust is rarely restored after it has been broken. However, the intelligence she supplied was actionable and verifiable. It confirmed his suspicions, which he had developed on his own. "You used me," he said finally. "Yes," she said, refusing to look away. "And they used me too." Silence stretched between them, heavy with the weight of possible consequences. Execution. Exile. Conditional forgiveness. Sunny's decision would determine whether her deadly game resulted in bloodshed. Finally, he spoke.